Kalpataru Swabhavaha. How many times shall I repeat it? Kalpataru Swabhavaha. Whenever you go, whichever temple you go to, whichever deity or picture you stand in front, understand that it represents the supreme divinity, God, the supreme intelligence, which is Kalpataru Swabhavaha, who has got a nature to yield whatever you ask for. It is such a God that every one of you is worshipping. Chitram tavehidamaho amita yogamaya lila visrishta bhuvanasya visharadasya sarvatmanas samadrisho vishamasvabhavo bhakta priyo yadasi kalpataru swabhavaha. Bhakta priyo yadasi kalpataru swabhavaha. My dear Lord, you are a bhakta priya, a lover of devotees. Kalpataru swabhavaha. You have the same swabhava nature which the Kalpataru has, granting all wishes of devotees. Sri Bhagavan Vacha, listening to what Prahlada said, Vamana replied, Vatsa Prahlada Bhadram te prayahi sudalalayam modamanaha swapautrena Nyadinam Sukhamavaha. Vatsa Prahlada Bhadram te prayahi sudalalayam modamanaha swapautrena Nyadinam Sukhamavaha. My dear affectionate Prahlada, Vatsa, Bhadram te, let everything be all right for you. I wish that auspiciousness should be there in full measure for you and all your people. Prayahi Sudalalayam, comfortably, contentedly, happily, hopefully go to Sudala, which I have made reserved for you. Modamanaha Swapautrena, go there with all the rejoicing and revelry that you can think of. Swapautrena, take your grandson also Mahabali, Nyadinam Sukhamavaha, and bring all the happiness and contentment that you want to give to all the relatives, friends and the others. Vatsa Prahlada Bhadram te prayahi sutalalayam modamana swapautrena Nyadinam Sukhamavaha. Now when you go there, Nityam Drashtasimam Tatra Gadapani Avasthitam. My dear listeners, my dear viewers, listen to these verses, so beautiful. You know, the very narration, the very hearing of this Vamana episode is so enriching, elevating, enlightening and rewarding to the minds and hearts of people. Such a great story narration. I am not just narrating to you an instance or an episode or an event of the past. Though the substance of what I am saying apparently is something of the past, but the narration is actually related to your mind, the mind's character, the mind's behavior, the immense potential that every one of you has in your mind, and the possibilities spread before us. We are discussing this. By narrating this episode, I am exhorting every one of you to become a lofty devotee of Supreme Intelligence, God. A Kalpataru Swabhava Lord. So it is specifically addressed to your mind. And all this comes to you in the form of knowledge input for your intelligence. When the intelligence understands all these things, the impact is directly had by the mind. So the mind becomes more and more pious, more and more humble, more and more elastic, more and more devotionally fervent, wholesome. That is the purpose. Vatsa Prahlada Bhadram te prayahi sudalalayam modamana swapautrena Nyadinam Sukhamavaha Nityam Drashtasimam Tatra Gadapanim Avastidam Maddarshana Mahahlada Dvasta Karma Nibandhanaha. I mean, see what a great blessing they are getting. Nityam Drashtasimam Tatra, in Sudala, incessantly, unbrokenly, you will be able to see me every day. We are all born in this world and ordinary people are not able to see the Lord anytime. Now Vamana is blessing them, saying that every time you will find me there. I will be present close to you, proximate to you every time. Gadapanim avasthidam. Am I just remaining there? No. Gadapanim avasthidam. I will have the club along with me. Gadapanim avasthidam. Mad darshana mahaklada dhvasta karma nibandhana. You don't have to do any ritual or ceremony there. No further practice of holiness, piety or religiosity. Mad darshana mahaklada. Mad darshana mahaklada. You will have an ahlada, a kind of an extreme, a profuse rejoicing in your mind. By what? Mad darshana. By seeing me there as a Gadapani. In that mahaklada, that revelry, dhvasta karma nibandhana. You will have no bondage at all. Here we understand that piety also is binding, holiness also is binding, vice also is binding. One is a golden chain, another is a silver chain, the third is a steel chain. That is all the difference. But there no bandhana of any kind will be there, because I will be present close to you and you will start seeing me. In the presence of light or even fire, will there be darkness shining? Certainly not. In the same manner, all bondages of your mind and heart will be completely let loose, broken away. Nityam drashtasimam tatra gadapanim avasthidam maddarshana mahaklada dhvasta karma nibandhana. Maddarshana mahaklada. Now this is one word I would like to draw your attention specially to. That mahaklada comes, maddarshana, by seeing God, by thinking about God, by reflecting upon Him, by contemplating upon Him. The extent of festivity, the extent of felicity you feel by the thought and memory of God, by the contemplation of God, you cannot compare it. It transcends and exceeds all the other forms of revelry that you can think of. Maddarshana mahaklada dhvasta karma nibandhanaha. Vamana turns to Shukracharya and he says something. It is very, very important. Brahman santanushishyasya karma chidram vidanvataha yattat karmasu vaishamyam brahmadrishtam samam bhaved. Brahman santanu shishyasya karma chidram vidanvataha yattat karmasu vaishamyam brahmadrishtam samam bhaved. Brahman karma vidanvataha shishyasya chidram santanu. What does it mean? It is a little amusing that Vamana himself admits that the whole episode has brought about some seeming disruption to the performance of Ashwamedha Yaga by Mahabali. What was the occasion? Mahabali was performing Ashwamedha Yaga and Shukracharya and the others were officiating over the performance. It was at that time that he came with his leafy umbrella and the dwarf form. He entered there and he was honored, and all this followed. So that meant certainly an interruption to the holy performance. Vamana himself says, Hey Brahman, O Brahmana, karma vidanvataha shishyasya. The disciple is performing the yaga. In that performance, a kind of a defect or disruption has been caused. Santanu. Now you do whatever redressal measure is necessary for it and complete the whole performance without any defect. Karmasu yat vaishamyam tad brahmadrishtam samam bhavet. Are you able to imagine? Imagine the whole situation. Vamana himself says that by virtue of his own appearance, dialogue and whatever followed there has been some disruption. That disruptional effect should not be there for the performance. So the Ashwamedha Yaga should be completed. And he also says that whenever something is supervised or graced by at least looking at by the Brahmanas, every defect will be set right. So make sure that Mahabali's performance is complete and full. This disruption should not be having any effect at all there. On hearing it, Shukracharya says, Shukra uvacha Kudastat karma vaishamyam yasya karmeshwaro bhavan yajnesho yajnapurushaha sarvabhavena pujidaha. Even Shukra gives this kind of a certificate. Kudastat karma vaishamyam. Oh, Vamana, you are referring to some kind of a chidra, disruptional defect in the performance. But how can that occur? Yasya karmeshwaro bhavan. The whole sacrifice is lauded by you. It is meant for you. When you appeared on the scene, that Yajneshwara himself has come. When the Yajneshwara himself is present, that is the best of result and best of fruition for any religious or spiritual performance. There is nothing more required. Yajnesho yajnapurushaha sarvabhavena pujidaha. Not only that, Yajneshaha yajnapurushaha. You are the Lord of all sacrifices, and you are the Purusha, Yajnapurusha himself. Sarvabhavena pujidaha. Now Mahabali has given everything he had, placed everything at your feet, offered himself also. He even said, for the third foot, he showed the head, put it on my head. So when you have been worshipped like this by all people, where is the question of any defect or any incompleteness at all? Kudastat karma vaishamyam yasya karmeshwaro bhavan yajnesho yajnapurushaha sarvabhavena pujidaha. Mantradaha tantradaha chidram desha kalarha vastudaha sarvam karoti nischidram nama sankirtanam tava. Sreemad Bhagavata's special pronouncement. Mantradaha tantradaha chidram desha kalarha vastudaha sarvam karoti nischidram nama sankirtanam tava. In performing anything whatsoever, including the great distinguished sacrifices prescribed by the Vedas, mantrataha, either in the reciting of mantra, selecting of mantra or otherwise, tantrataha, in the necessary gesticulations, anganyasa, karanyasa, etc., to accompany the chanting of the mantra, chidram, if there is any loophole, defect or otherwise, desha kalarha vastudaha, either in selecting the place or selecting the time or in selecting the materials and other things. If there has been a defect, if at all, sarvam karoti nischidram, everything is completely absolved. All loopholes are removed and filled. Nama sankirtanam tava, by chanting your name, by doing sankirtana, loud singing of your names, various synonyms that you have, by chanting them, everything is purified, everything is completed, all defects are nullified, he says. We have two important words, Om Tat Sat. You know, often many of you might have heard Harihi Om Tat Sat. I always use this. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Harihi Om Tat Sat. These four words are so full, complete and overflowing with divinity and the divine power and blessing. By chanting Om Tats, everything is purified. Everything is purified. Take a little water. Take a little water in your hand and sprinkle it. Om Tats, Om Tats, Om Tats. Everything becomes purified. Now something like that. Nama Sankirtanam Tava. Your Nama Sankirtana is sufficient enough to purify everything and complete everything. No shortfall will ever come. Mantradas tantradas chidram desha kalarha vastudaha sarvam karodi nischidram Nama Sankirtanam tava tathapi vadato bhuman karishyamyanushasanam edat shreyah param pumsam yattavajnanupadanam. Tathapi vadato bhuman karishyamyanushasanam. Though this is the fact. What is the fact? You are present and you have come personally. So the whole sacrifice has attained its fruition and fulfillment. Even then you are saying, because of your appearance and this episode of blessing Mahabali, if seemingly or psychologically in your minds some kind of a defect feeling is there, set it right you are quite competent and in your presence everything will be all right. Okay, I am not going to say anything or show any disregard. Tathapi vadato bhuman karishyamya anushasanam etat shreyah param pumsam yattavajnanupalanam. Even then, I shall do what you have asked me to do. I shall complete the whole sacrifice as you have ordered. Why? Etad shreyah. This indeed is the supreme felicity, shreyas for all people, everlasting goodness, param pumsam for all people, yattavajnanupalanam, strict adherence to whatever you have ordered. That constitutes the supreme felicity for all people in this world. So I shall obey and faithfully adhere to what you have said. Tathapi vadato bhuman karishyamya anushasanam etat shreyah param pumsam yattavajnanupalanam. Shri Shuka uvacha abhinandya hare rajñam ushana bhagavaniti yajnaschidram samadhatta beler viprarshibhis saha. Abhinandya hare rajñam ushanaha bhagavaniti. Bhagavan ushanaha Shukradeva harehe ajñam, the command or the order given by Lord Hari, iti abhinandya, accepting it, and even in a way complimenting the Lord for having given the order. Viprarshibhihi saha yajnachidram samadhata. Along with the other people acting as priests, they collectively, ceremonially redressed whatever disruptional effect was there in the performance of the sacrifice. Bhagavan Ushanaha Harehe Ajñam iti Abhinandya Viprashibhi Saha Yajnachidram Samadhata. Evam Beler Mahim Rajan Bhikshitva Vamano Harihi Dadau Bhratre Mahendraya Tridivam Yat Parair Hridam. Evam Beler Mahim Rajan. Evam Belehe Mahim Rajan Bhikshitva Vamano Harihi. You see these words used by Bhagavatam, Vedavyasa Maharshi. Evam, in this manner, Belehe Mahim, the land held by Mahabali, after having displaced Indra and the others from their abode. Bhikshitva Vamano Harihi. He came as a bhikshu, as a Vamana, as a dwarf, as an ascetic brahmachari. And he was seeking it, bhiksha, like bhiksha. Just like any sannyasin or an ascetic will go in front of a house and ask for the bhiksha. He also went there and sought in the way of something like alms. Vamano Harihi Dadau Bhratre Mahendraya. He gave it back to Mahendra. Who is this Mahendra? By having been born as the son of Aditi, Mahendra had suddenly become the brother of Vamana. So he returned it to his brother. Only when he was born as a brother, he had the right to defend the brother's cause. And for that purpose, he decided to go there as a Vamana. Tridivam yat parair hridam. All the three worlds, they were completely robbed by the others. So he restored law and order and gave him all this. Evam beler mahim rajan bhikshitva vamano harihi dadau bhratre mahendraya tridivam yat parair hridam. Shukadeva, the narrator, Vedavyasa, the composer, they have these two verses to tell you in conclusion of the whole narration of this particular episode. Yaidam deva devasya harehe adbhuta karmanaha avatara anucharidam shrinvan yadi param gadim. Why am I narrating this to you? We are actually in the midst of the 11th skandha of Sreemad Bhagavatam. There, that Trivikramayutaha, that particular word, it is referring to this Vamana avatara, the descent of Vamana. That is why I wanted to give you a whole narration, though in a brief manner, condensed manner, about this episode. I have got a purpose, just like Srimad Bhagavatam itself has a purpose and a mission. Yaidam deva devasya harehe adbhuta karmanaha. You should understand the maker, the master of the universe, adbhuta karmanaha, Harehe. Lord Hari, Lord Hari. The Parama Kalyana Nidhi, Lord Hari. Adbhuta Karmanaha. He is always given to acting in a wonderful manner. In a manner that is bewitching, bewildering, confounding, consternational in character. So here also it is something like that. Ordinary stories and ordinary instances will not be able to evoke admiration, inspiration, curiosity and allurement in the minds of the people. Unless something very splendid and spectacular is there, we will not be able to listen to. So here, Yaidam Devadevasya Harehe Adbhuta Karmanaha. Hari is defined here, described here as Deva Deva. He is the Lord of all Devas. Harehe Adbhuta Karmanaha. Always he is given to acting in a very transcendental, wonderful and bewildering manner. Avatara Anucharidam. This is the narration of the story of his descent. Shrinvan Yadi Param Gadim. Whoever is given to listening to this story, listening to this narration, Param Gadim Yadi, he attains the supreme spiritual state. So the purpose of the narration is very clear. I hope all of you have heard this narration with all the devotion and piety that you can think of. You can get this. Maybe we shall be able to produce it in the form of CDs. You can listen to the stories. Call all the family members, relatives and the others. Make them listen to, and you will find all of you will attain a supreme abode. Kriyamane karmanidam deve pitre thamanushe yatra yatra anukirtyeda tattesham sukritam viduhu. It is not that in a leisurely manner you listen to this story. There are many people given to rituals, ceremonies and other things of varying orders and varying levels. While performing any ritual meant for propitiating gods and goddesses, maybe yagas and yajnas, to propitiate the higher deities and powers, or performances like death anniversary for pitre, for the departed people, the mains, then manushe, maybe in honor of human beings even. Whatever be the nature of the ceremony that you perform, the congregational acts that you are performing, yatra yatra anukirtyeda, that is the best place for narrating this episode. Get somebody, ask him to narrate the Vamana episode, particularly giving emphasis to the dialogue that transpired between Vamana and Mahabali. How each was stipulating his views and the other was countering it. So there is an excellence, super excellence, deluxe excellence. Like that they were speaking one after the other. Now while this speech is going on, your own mind is getting churned by whatever they say. What kind of an attitude you should have. The giver says, I want to give more. The taker says, I don't want to take a penny more than what I have asked for. My contentment lies in restraining my greed, restraining my possession. The other man says, you are a fool, you are a child, ask for more, get many peninsulas from me. He says, no, I don't want. See, the human mind has got this character, this worth and merit to restrain its greed and remain contented with the minimum, the minimum. A greedy mind will never be contented with the maximum. It wants super maximum, still super maximum. So this dialogue is actually a churning of your own mind. And without any performance whatsoever you will find, you will attain the purity of desire freeness or desirelessness. Kriyamane karmanidam deive pitre thamanushe yatra yatranukirtyeda tattesham sukritam viduhu. Now, it is not enough if you perform any kind of a social or a congregational act, either for the sake of devas or for the sake of your own pitrus, the departed souls. While doing that act, make a narration of this Vamana episode. And that narration will make it extremely holy. Not only that, it will rise from the level of a mere physical performance. It will enter your mind and heart, penetrate into your inner personality and purify it, sublimate it and elevate it, making the whole thing superbly holy. That is absolutely necessary. kriyamane karmanidam daive pitriyetha manushe yatra yatra anukirtyeda tattesham sukridam viduhu. Now I have completed this Vamana episode and we are going back to the 11th chapter. We are in the midst of the hymn made by the Devas who have come under the leadership of Brahma, Shiva and the others to entreat Sri Krishna to go back to Vaikuntha. We are in the midst of that praise. I am now going to recite the verse number 14. Nasyota gava ivayasya vashe bhavanti brahmadayasthanubhruto mithurardhyamana kalasyate prakriti purushayoh parasya shamnastanotu charanaha purushottamasya. Understand that Krishna had the Kshatriya spirit and purpose. Otherwise he was quite a human being. That is why he was born of Devaki and Vasudeva. Maybe there was a lot of divinity in his birth. In fact, in the birth of every human being, it is divinity. I would like to say every one of you is spiritual. Otherwise, we would all have become dead bodies, carcasses. The fact that our body is remaining animated and it is activated, it goes to prove very clearly that there is something above matter and energy in the way of the spirit. So that spiritual presence is what is responsible for shaping the body, making the body, ultimately having birth from the mother's womb. Everything is done because of the spirit.